Welcome to Tech Talks with Kinsoft.
Glad to be here.
I was just thinking before we hit record, I want you to imagine waking up to find that your employees' actual passports aren't just, stolen.
Right. Which is bad enough.
Exactly, but they are actively being auctioned off on, well, essentially a dark web version of eBay.
Yeah, to the highest bidder. It's completely wild.
It feels entirely dystopian, right? But it's actually unfolding right in our own backyard. So today we are undertaking thorough exploration into a recent close-to-home cyber incident to understand exactly how modern ransomware groups are evolving their extortion playbooks.
Yeah, and we're looking specifically at how they're moving away from those private, behind-closed-doors threats into these massive public spectacles.
Right. Highly public, market-driven spectacles. We're basing our discussion today on an exclusive article that David Hollingworth published in Cyber Daily back on May 15th, 2026.
And really, the whole landscape of digital threats is, it's undergoing this fundamental economic shift right now.
Yeah, definitely. Okay, let's unpack this. I want you to put yourself in the shoes of a business leader for a second. You are running a successful, well-regarded local business, right? Employing hundreds of people in your community.
A real pillar of the town.
Exactly. You manage your properties, you take care of your staff, and then completely out of the blue, you realize that your most sensitive, confidential, corporate, and personal documents are just up for public auction.
In front of the entire world.
Yes. The psychological whiplash of that transition, going from standard daily operations to a globally visible crisis, it's just staggering.
It really is. And it's designed to be completely destabilizing. That jarring transition is actually the primary source of leverage for these threat actors now.
Right.
They're no longer just exploiting software vulnerabilities. They are actively engineering a pressure cooker environment.
Because they want everyone panicking. Right.
Exactly. They want the board of directors, the IT team, the local community, everybody reacting all at once. It creates this chaotic environment where, honestly, paying a ransom starts to look like the only valve to release all that pressure.
Yeah, and that pressure cooker is currently a stark reality for the Goodstone Group.
Yeah, unfortunately.
For context, the Goodstone Group is a major hospitality operator based down in Devonport, so right in northern Tasmania.
Right.
And they're a massive part of that local economy. According to the reporting, they employ over 350 Tasmanians.
That's a huge footprint for a regional area.
It really is.
Yeah.
We're talking about 9 different hotel properties, 5 standalone bottle shops, and a nightclub property, too.
Wow.
Yeah, this is a regional hospitality staple, deeply embedded in its community.
And, the profile of the victim here is highly indicative of current targeting trends.
How so?
Well, geographic isolation, or, operating outside of major metropolitan hubs, that provides zero friction to global cybercrime networks.
Right. Distance means nothing on the internet.
Exactly. And regional hospitality groups are just incredibly complex ecosystems. They manage high volumes of transient customer data. They've got constant payment processing, integrated booking systems.
High staff turnover, too, usually.
Yes, exactly. High staff turnover. So when threat actors' automated scanners are out there just, pinging around looking for a foothold, a hotel's sprawling vendor network often presents a much more accessible attack surface than, say, a highly locked down bank.
Yeah, that makes total sense. And the timeline of how this attack surfaced is really indicative of that new pressure model you were talking about.
Right. Because
Goodstone confirmed that on April 18th, 2026, they officially began responding to a cybersecurity incident.
But it didn't go public right away.
No. The attackers didn't just lock the servers and leave a text file on a desktop like the old days. The public escalation happened a couple of weeks later, on May 2.
Oh, okay.
A newly emerged hacking group posted Goodstone onto their dark web leak site. And they published a sample of the stolen data to, prove they actually had the goods.
And we've seen this double extortion model really become the industry standard over the last few years.
Yeah.
But the curation of that leaked sample, it's become a dark art in itself.
It really has. They don't just dump random server logs anymore.
No, not at all. They meticulously select the documents that will cause the absolute maximum amount of internal panic and external liability.
Right. And the sample they curated here is just devastating. I mean, they published employee passport scans.
Oof. Yeah. That's rough.
A highly sensitive confidentiality agreement and detailed bank reconciliation documents from one of Goodstone's hotels.
Just worst case scenario stuff.
Totally. Think about the physical equivalent of this tactic, right? Like, obviously, it's a modern cyber attack. But if we compare it to a physical burglary, The burglar doesn't just break in, take the cash from the safe, and, slip away into the night.
Right.
Instead, they take Polaroids of your employees' passports, snap pictures of your private financial ledgers, and then they literally walk into the center of town and pin those photos to the public notice board.
What's fascinating here is the stark contrast between the incredibly damaging, ruthless nature of those, well, those metaphorical Polaroids, and the highly mature, responsible reaction from the victim.
Yeah, Goodstone handled it really well.
We so often critique incident response on this show, but Goodstone handled the immediate fallout with textbook precision.
They really did not try to sweep this under the rug at all. The source material outlines that Goodstone's response was immediate and transparent.
Which is exactly what you want to see.
Yeah, the moment they realized the scope of the incident, they took aggressive steps to contain it, and they immediately engaged external cybersecurity experts.
Crucial first step.
And furthermore, they proactively notified the Australian Cybersecurity Centre and the Tasmanian government. They even set up a dedicated email.
And that level of proactive communication is critical for mitigating long-term reputational damage. But, it also exposes the raw asymmetry of modern cyber warfare.
What do you mean by asymmetry there?
Well, on one side, you have this regional business adhering to complex legal frameworks, regulatory reporting requirements, community obligations, doing everything by the book.
Right.
And on the other side, you have a completely unconstrained, faceless entity operating totally outside of any legal jurisdiction. And they are leveraging the personal identities of local hospitality workers as essentially disposable bargaining chips.
Yeah, it's wild that a local business handled this with such textbook corporate maturity, while the attackers are actually trying to play the exact same corporate game.
Right, but in a completely twisted way.
Exactly. So the group responsible for pinning those Polaroids to the board, they call themselves the CMD Organization.
CMD Organization sounds very official.
Right. Beasley Security analyzed this breach in a May 14 blog post and noted this group is incredibly new. Like, they only began operations in March 2026.
So they are super new to the scene, but obviously operating with immense aggression. The sources indicate they've claimed 8 victims so far in that really short window.
Yeah, making Goodstone their very first Australian target.
Wow.
And reading their public-facing materials in the Cyber Daily piece, it's just a surreal experience. CMD Organization aggressively frames itself as a legitimate corporate entity.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Their leak site literally claims that they are a, quote, new kind of company that specializes in corporate system security and in identifying vulnerabilities.
You're kidding.
No, they have a published mission statement, okay? To create a secure online environment where every company is safely protected and immune to user data breaches.
I mean, it reads like a brochure for a Tier 1 risk advisory firm.
It does.
Which is a masterful, if entirely cynical, exercise in cognitive manipulation.
Cynical is putting it mildly. It's like a mafia protection racket trying to rebrand as a neighborhood watch program.
Right, exactly.
They smash your windows, raid your cash register, and then hand you this sleekly embossed business card claiming they specialize in structural integrity audits. I mean, how does the cybercrime ecosystem arrive at a place where threat actors feel the need to adopt high-end corporate branding?
Well, the psychology behind this corporate veneer serves a highly calculated economic purpose.
Okay, lay it out for me.
When a company experiences a major breach, the executive team is operating under extreme stress, obviously.
Sure.
If the attacker communicates like a chaotic, unhinged criminal, it reinforces the narrative that the board is dealing with a terrorist. And, corporate governance dictates that you do not fund terrorism.
Right, you lock down and refuse to pay.
Exactly. But if the attacker communicates using the language of an auditor, framing the extortion demand as a consultancy fee or a bounty for identifying critical vulnerabilities, it introduces this cognitive dissonance.
It softens the psychological blow.
Yes.
It tricks a stressed executive team into feeling like they are resolving an aggressive B2B contract dispute rather than, capitulating to an international crime syndicate.
That's it, exactly. It normalizes the extortion.
Yeah.
They use terms like timeliness, data integrity, and confidentiality guarantees because it gives the victim's management team a psychological off-ramp.
Oh, that's so manipulative.
It provides them with the internal justification to authorize a multi-million-dollar payout under the guise of procuring a non-traditional security service.
Wow. But Beasley Securities analysis completely punctures that elite consultant persona.
Yeah, it really does.
Because despite the slick PR and the high-minded mission statements, Beasley assesses CMD Organization's actual tradecraft as having, quote, limited operational maturity.
Which is very telling.
Right. They suggest CMD might simply be relying heavily on initial access brokers, or IABs. And we know how the specialization of labor works in the cybercrime ecosystem, but outsourcing the actual hacking fundamentally undercuts their whole elite security firm narrative.
It absolutely exposes them as opportunists rather than sophisticated operators. The dark web economy has evolved into this highly segmented supply chain, right?
Yeah.
Initial access brokers are specialized actors who do nothing but scan the internet for compromised credentials, unpatched software, or vulnerable remote desktop gateways.
They just find the open doors.
Right. They pry the window open,
Go.
but they lack the infrastructure or the desire to actually orchestrate a multi-million-dollar extortion campaign.
So they monetize that access by selling the coordinates of the open window to a group like CMD.
Exactly. Historically, IABs would sell that access for a flat fee, maybe a few hundred or a few $1,000s, depending on the revenue of the target company.
Okay.
But the economic model is really shifting toward affiliate structures now. An IAB might hand over the access in exchange for a 20% cut of the final ransom.
Oh.
This means groups like CMD Organization don't need elite, groundbreaking engineers writing zero-day exploits. They just need capital to buy access, some off-the-shelf ransomware to deploy once inside, and a slick PR front end to manage the extortion.
So CMD is essentially just the customer service and billing department for a decentralized network of hackers.
That's a perfect way to put it, yeah.
They buy the access, grab the data, and slap their corporate logo on the ransom note. Which, frankly, makes the way they are attempting to monetize the Goodstone data even more alarming.
Right.
Because the corporate messaging isn't their only innovation. They are fundamentally altering the mechanics of the digital extortion market.
And the financial demand in this case is substantial, which really serves as the baseline for this new market mechanic.
Yeah, let's talk numbers. The extortion demand for the Goodstone data is roughly $1 million. In cryptocurrency terms, based on the article's publication date, that translates to 9 Bitcoin. But the innovation isn't the price tag. CMD Organization has introduced a tactic where they are allowing anyone on the internet to bid on the stolen data offered on their website.
Which represents a radical structural shift in how data breaches are weaponized.
Yeah, and here's where it gets really interesting. I mean, is this public bidding war actually a functional economic model, or is it purely a psychological weapon?
It's a great question.
Because the idea of a dark web eBay for stolen passports sounds terrifying, but I have to wonder about the liquidity of that market. Like, are there really dozens of competing criminal syndicates sitting around with $1 million in Bitcoin, ready to outbid each other for the HR files of a Tasmanian hotel group?
If we connect this to the bigger picture, the auction format is heavily weighted towards psychological warfare, sure. But the underlying product they are selling, which is exclusivity, holds immense, very real economic value for a specific subset of buyers. Beasley Securities analysis highlights that this tactic completely shatters the traditional closed-room negotiation model.
Right, because the victim is no longer just negotiating against the attacker's patience. They're negotiating against a public countdown clock and the threat of this invisible market.
Exactly. When negotiations happen in secret, the threat actor's leverage is capped by what the victim's cyber insurance policy will cover, or what the company's cash reserves can handle.
Makes sense.
But by dragging a podium into the town square and taking public bids, the attacker removes that cap. They are signaling to the victim, we don't actually need you to pay. We have an entire marketplace of buyers who will.
Ow.
Whether or not a massive bidding war actually materializes is almost secondary to the panic that the threat of the auction induces in the boardroom.
Yeah, the panic is the point. But Beasley Security points out a very specific technical danger here, which is the concept of exclusive access.
Right.
If someone wins this auction, CMD locks the sale to that single buyer. And, I always assumed that when negotiations failed, stolen data was just jumped onto a public forum for any low-level scammer to grab.
That used to be the standard, yeah.
But locking it to a single buyer changes the entire economic model of identity theft, doesn't it?
It changes the model completely by introducing the luxury of time. The fundamental problem with publicly dumped data is noise.
Too many people using it at once.
Exactly. If CMD releases the Goodstone employee passports and banking details to the general public, thousands of disparate actors descend on the exact same data set simultaneously,
And they all try to monetize the exact same identities at the exact same time.
which immediately triggers the fraud detection algorithms at major financial institutions.
Right, of course it does.
If 50 different IP addresses try to use the same Tasmanian passport to open cryptocurrency exchange accounts or apply for credit cards within a 24-hour window, the anti-money laundering and know your customer systems flag the identity immediately.
So the banks freeze the accounts, the passports are marked as compromised, and the data set becomes essentially worthless overnight.
Precisely. Public data depreciates instantly because of the sheer volume of chaotic competing attacks.
So by selling exclusive access, CMD is guaranteeing the buyer a silent environment.
Yes.
If a malicious syndicate pays a premium at this auction, they are the only ones inside the vault. They don't have to rush.
They purchase dwell time. The exclusive buyer can spend weeks or even months quietly analyzing the internal reporting structures of the Goodstone Group.
Oh, man.
They can use the stolen confidentiality agreements to craft highly convincing, targeted spear phishing emails to external vendors. They can slowly synthesize the passport scans with other data points to build robust synthetic identities.
All while patiently bypassing KYC protocols without tripping any concurrent alarms.
Exactly.
It dramatically increases the return on investment for the criminal buyer, but conversely, it makes the data infinitely more dangerous for the actual human beings whose information was stolen.
Unquestioned.
The employees of Goodstone Group aren't just dealing with their data being cast into the noisy wind of the internet. Their identities are being handed over to a dedicated, heavily invested syndicate who paid top dollar at an auction.
Right.
That syndicate now has a massive financial incentive to squeeze every conceivable cent of value out of those specific passports to recoup their million-dollar investment.
It is the ultimate commoditization of human identity. The attackers have optimized the supply chain via initial access brokers.
Right.
They have normalized the extortion through corporate branding, and now they are maximizing the yield through exclusive public auctions.
It's chilling.
They're utilizing fundamental marketplace economics to engineer maximum leverage.
It really strips away any remaining pretense of amateur hacking, doesn't it?
Completely.
This is a highly organized, market-driven industry. The Goodstone incident makes it undeniably clear that cyber attacks are no longer localized IT problems that can be quietly resolved by a tech support team resetting some servers.
They are high-stakes, highly visible corporate crises. The defensive strategy can no longer just focus on building a taller firewall. Organizations have to understand the economic drivers of the adversaries they are facing.
You really have to know the business of your enemy.
Exactly. When attackers are mimicking corporate structures and utilizing sophisticated market dynamics, the defense requires an equally mature, comprehensive approach to incident response, data segregation, and identity management.
Well said. And as we wrap up this discussion, I want you, the listener, to really sit with what this market evolution means for the future of our personal information.
The big question.
It is. If ransomware cartels are successfully moving toward exclusive public bidding wars, what happens to the fundamental concept of privacy?
Yeah.
We are entering an era where your stolen identity isn't just a byproduct of a corporate breach. It becomes a rare, single-owner commodity, aggressively optioned off to the highest bidder on a dark web trading floor.
It's a sobering reality, for sure.
It really is, and it underscores exactly why robust modern security architectures are absolutely not optional anymore. If you're wondering how to protect your own organization from these rapidly evolving market-driven threats, we'd love to help you prepare and build out those defenses. Please visit www.kinsoft.com.au to discuss your own security and IT needs. Thanks for joining us, and stay safe out there.